So we spoke, I guess, last week and again earlier this week, although I don't remember what week it is anymore because it seems like it's now the middle of March.
It is not.
But
hate to break it to you.
That bivalent vaccine now, we talked about this with Aaron Durfel actually last week, but now it is being made available here in Quebec to children between the ages of 5 and 11. Want to find out, first of all, who should get this, and where are we at in terms of kids being vaccinated overall?
It sort of feels like it fell off the radar.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Dr. Earl Rubin is director of the Infectious Diseases Division at the Montreal Children's. He's on the line right now. Dr. Rubin, thanks for your time this afternoon. So let's start off by talking about that first part, which is now that this bivalent vaccine is available, should all kids 5 to 11 be getting this, or what's the next step here?
Boy, Aaron, Natasha, I wish there was a straightforward answer. Unfortunately, there isn't a straightforward answer, and you have to look at an individual basis. So if you have a child who was primed with the regular the ancestral strain vaccine and are at increased risk of having COVID or complicated disease, then yes, my recommendation would be to have one of the bivalent boosters. If you have a child who has never been vaccinated, the bivalent is not indicated for a primary series, so those kids are not eligible for that. And if you have a kid who was primed with the original vaccine and is not at increased risk, then it's what our National Advisory on Committee on Immunization in Canada says it's a discretionary recommendation to give that booster, meaning look at what are the risk factors. It's not a definitive, absolutely give it to everybody. But with COVID, from the beginning, recommendations change, and we'll see with the XBB.1.5. So far, it's not indicating that it causes more severe disease, but is more infectious. And we'll see what's coming with the variants. Does it cause more severe disease? Is there protection from the induced immunity from that bivalent vaccine or not? So recommendations will change.
Oh, boy, I have a lot of questions. Okay, Dr. Rubin, let's start with, does this new bivalent vaccine cover Kraken? Is it effective for Kraken?
So nobody really knows. I can tell you that for, I'll call it the XBB.1.5, because I don't know if the Kraken is really the scientific term for it. We know that there was increasing numbers in the northeast of the U.S., that there have been cases detected here in Quebec, and that it is more infectious. And so with that knowledge, then you need to say, have there been increased hospitalizations, deaths, morbidity, mortality? And so far, there has not. And so the presumption is either that the vaccine is effective in protecting, or that the variant is not that severe, although it is more infectious. But more likely, it's a combination thereof.
Okay. And then why is the bivalent vaccine not recommended for kids who have not been vaccinated yet? That's interesting to me.
Yeah, it's not been studied like that.
Okay.
The amount, so the bivalent vaccine in terms of studies and licensure are all for booster doses.
Okay, very interesting. And what about children who have had COVID? So it is recommended for kids who have been vaccinated or like had some dose. If they've had some dose, well, where are we at? How many doses should kids have had by now?
Yeah, so the primary series for a healthy child are 2 doses of the vaccine.
Okay.
If somebody is at increased risk, as a high-risk individual, sickle cell anemia, obesity, neurological disease, severe lung disease, heart disease, things like that, that put the kids at increased risk. Those are the kids that I would recommend that they get it 5 to 6 months after their primary series. But to answer your question, it's an excellent question, because when did the child have COVID and how long ago? Mm-hmm. And did they have COVID after having a vaccine? Because even the non-bivalent vaccine, having COVID and then 1 or 2 doses of the vaccine, may give you protective immunity against severe disease. Unfortunately, we know with the newer variants since Omicron came around more than a year ago, that the vaccines are not great at protecting against infection, but where they are great is protecting against severe disease. And having said that, children generally don't get severe disease overall.
Okay.
Now I'm forgetting your question, Natasha, but I don't know if that answered it.
If a child has had, say they've got their 2 vaccines and then they've had COVID, do the same kind of guidelines apply for kids as applied for adults? So you want to wait around 5 months before getting an additional booster?
Yeah, 3 to 5 months, depending on what the risk factor is. So you're going to want to do it earlier if somebody is really at high risk for complicated disease. Otherwise, I would wait that 5 to 6 months.
All right.
It's confusing.
Can I ask this question with respect to hesitancy of parents that came up earlier on? Are you seeing more or less of that when it comes to getting kids vaccinated?
For COVID or vaccine in general?
No, COVID specifically, although maybe we're talking vaccines in general. Has it kind of crossed that line?
So we know that the uptake and the embrace for the vaccine was much higher at the beginning, and that made sense because prior to Omicron, the vaccine was really like 90-95% effective in preventing infection. And so depending on which community people came from, the uptake of getting 2 doses of the vaccine in some West End communities was 90-95%. Now with since Omicron, and we know that vaccine doesn't necessarily prevent infection, and those who were not vaccinated, we see vaccination rates that are dismal. Now, is that hesitancy because they're worried about the vaccine, or the question, do they need the vaccine because they don't get that sick, they got COVID, they were fine, they had a cold, and do we need it? So in some communities now, the vaccination rate is like 10 to 15% and not in the 90 to 95% range.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's hesitancy or just like, do we need it?
Yeah, but it is concerning, I think, at the end of the day, regardless of what it is, it's making people not get this for their kids, I guess.
Yeah.
I think what would be much more concerning at this point is if they don't believe in vaccines in general and are not getting their kids the measles, mumps,
right.
Rubella vaccine, tetanus, etc.
More reason to worry about stuff we didn't think we'd have to ever worry about again.
Very
Dr. Rubin,
helpful, though.
Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. We appreciate it.
A pleasure.